What's up, world? Let me tell you about this beard growth oil I got from 12 tribes on Earth. 8 ounces of oily goodness with a nozzle that prevents sprays and spills, and soft ingredients that make it perfect addition to anyone's morning routine. From coconut to castor, all these oils are hand chosen. After using this herbal blend, the biggest thing I noticed is how soft and how strong my hair was, and how good I feel. Pick up your bottle today and make your beard the star of the show.
Ladies and gentlemen, Rodney Hinton's attorney does an interview with Fox 19, and he gets into some details about what happened and the state of mind that Rodney Hinton was in after viewing the video of his son being unalived by a cop. And you're just going to see him just talk about things like the insanity plea that he intends on using, and and why Rodney Hinton should be able to use that because of his past history, which is recorded, of mental illness. So y'all, let's get into this.
Down for a one-on-one interview with Hinton's defense attorney, Clyde Bennett. We talked about everything from the deadly shooting of Hinton's son and his mental state at the time of the deadly crash to Bennett taking him on as a client. What was going on with him when he was behind the wheel? Is it your contention that, do you admit that he was behind the wheel? Because officers said that he was behind the wheel. There's video of him behind the wheel, and that they took him out and in fact triple checked to make sure that he was the one that was behind the wheel.
Based on my acquaintance with this case, it appears that he was a person that was driving a car.
Okay.
Yes.
In mental capacity, where was he?
He was out of his mind. He was not in his right mind. Let me spell that out. That means that I'm doing something, but I don't know the wrongfulness of what I'm doing because I'm out of touch with reality. That's what insanity is. You can be insane and still present like a physically normal person, and you won't know that that person is insane but for their actions and but for an evaluation of their brain. This man had a diagnosed, documented mental illness that is recognized by healthcare providers, and he was receiving medication for the mental diagnoses. That constitutes a defect at this point.
So this is going to be not guilty by reason of insanity?
Potentially, yes. That's basically from what I've seen so far, and I haven't gotten all of the evidence. Really, I haven't gotten any evidence from the government. I've got it from my investigator. But from what I've seen so far, this is what it appears to be. Yes.
Okay. I want to back up on something that you initially said. You said unjustifiably killed. His son was unjustifiably killed. People would take issue with that as well. And that is going to be something that we're going to be looking at because there is 6 seconds of very shaky video.
Right.
So what is your contention there?
When I say unjustifiably killed, I'm speaking through the lens and eyes of my client.
Okay.
So in his mind, when he sees the video and he sees his son being killed, he thinks it's unjustifiable, it's horrific, it's tragic. Do you know what it's like to see your son or daughter being killed?
No, thank God I don't.
Your bloodline? I know you don't. I didn't mean to offend you when I said that. I have a son. If I saw my son being killed by somebody, I don't know how I would behave. And I don't have a mental history. Well, some might argue that I do, but I don't. So my point is that type of event would trigger a normal person, let alone a person with a history of mental illness.
Can you walk me through that a little bit more? Taking into account what the family has said in your investigation as to what happened at that point. So he watched the video, he had to be driven home because he was so distraught. He was taken back to wherever that was, wherever they watched the tape.
To get his vehicle.
To get his vehicle.
Correct.
And then at that point, did he go straight over to UC?
He's going home.
He was going home.
Which would take you That route.
Okay, so he was going home, but on the way home is when he took a detour and went to UC.
No, that is not a detour.
Okay, what was it?
That's on the way home.
Okay, so he's driving on the way home past UC.
Correct.
And what happens?
There's a claim that when he was on Martin Luther King Drive, he stopped his car and he accelerated and struck a police officer, or Hamilton County deputy sheriff. That's the claim, and that's what the video depicts.
And tell me more about that investigation, your side and what the family says and what he says about that.
The family doesn't know what happened then because they were not with him. So, but based on the information that I have, that is a claim that is made by the government. Now, have I verified for a fact that that has actually happened? No, because I haven't seen all of the discovery. But based on what I've seen, that is the claim.
Okay.
What I do know is his state of mind, based on speaking to family members and based on speaking to him.
And you've talked to him since?
I've tried to.
Does he talk?
I can't
without giving us any information.
I would be giving you attorney-client privilege,
okay,
especially when not guilty by reason of insanity or competence is at issue for me to discuss whether or not I believe he was competent. I'm not going to get into that.
Okay. Now let me just say, this conversation was about an hour long, and if you're sitting at home and you're thinking the question, I probably asked that one, so it's coming up, okay? Coming up at 6, he's going to address dozens of sheriff deputies that were in Hinton's court hearing and his client's current mental state, and also whether or not the people out in the community can swallow the pill of not guilty by reason of insanity. It's all coming up.
The jury has indicted Rodney Hinton Jr. on 2 counts of aggravated murder, 1 count of murder, and 2 counts of felonious assault in the death of retired Sheriff Deputy Larry Henderson.
Now, ahead of the indictment, I sat down for a one-on-one interview with Hinton's defense attorney, Clyde Bennett. We talked about everything. It was like an hour-long conversation, from the deadly shooting of Hinton's son to his mental state at the time of the deadly crash. Here's a portion. When you walked into the courtroom and there were 30-plus officers lining the courtroom, and they said it was to show their respect for Officer Henderson, a lot of people would say that was an intimidation factor for Hinton, Mr. Hinton. How was it gauged by him and by you?
Anybody looking at that would say one or two things or both things. It's a show of support for the Deputy Larry Henderson. His colleagues are disheartened. They're sad by his departure or his demise, and I would expect them to support him. But also, one can look at it and say, this is a show of force. This is threatening. This is intimidating. So there's 2 ways of looking at it, and I think both ways are reasonable when you construe what you saw in that courtroom when there was 30 deputies. I can understand it from the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department view, but I can also understand it if that was my son or that was my brother or my uncle or a relative with 30 or 40 police officers 2 or 3 feet away from him when he's in court seeking justice.
Not guilty by reason of insanity is a tough pill to swallow for a lot of people. And in this, with this absolutely innocent deputy who was plowed down and killed, and he is an exceptional man from everything that I hear as well.
He's a very exceptional man. I didn't know him personally, but I've seen Deputy Henderson more than once, and I've been in contact with him more than once over the years. And let's be clear, I feel for Deputy Henderson, his immediate family, his extended family, his colleagues and fellows at the Hamilton County Sheriff's Department. I feel for that community and that family. And the Hintons feel bad for what transpired or what happened to Deputy Henderson. They pray for the Henderson family, and I pray for that family too. But I had to compartmentalize my feelings and do my job. But that doesn't mean that I don't have feelings and that my clients don't have feelings for what happened to Deputy Henderson, because we do.
Is there anything that you think is important that we need to address?
No.
Because you can't go into any more detail about the mental illness, which is what I would want to know about.
I can't. That would be divulging attorney-client privilege
because the
at
thing
this
is,
stage of the legal process.
as I've said it twice, not guilty by reason of insanity makes a lot of people angry.
Right. Why?
Cop out. It's a cop out.
It's a cop out if it isn't real.
Right. And that's the thing. proving the fact that it's
Right,
real.
right.
It's like a court case in its own.
The doctor proves that it's real. The medical records proves that it's real. His conduct proves that it's real. And I think that's forthcoming.
Tell me what it was like when you were talking to the family about watching him getting shot by police officers. What was it like in that room? What did they say? How did everyone react to it?
My focus and my concentration was on the reception of the information or the video and the perception of the video from my client, Mr. Hinton. So I really didn't ask about the other individuals and how they received it and what impact, if any, it had on them. I was concerned with Mr. Hinton. So I can't tell you what the other people...
Did he tell you anything on how he was?
No.
Nothing?
No.
He hasn't commented on it at all?
No.
I don't know how much privilege that is.
No. That's as much as I'm probably going to give you, but no, he didn't tell me about that.
Okay.
I don't think he's in a condition to tell me.
Is he in the condition that he shows any remorse or anything right now?
No. No, I think he's in a bad condition, in a bad state right now, and I think he has the residual effect of his mental illness. You don't get rid of mental illness. It doesn't go away. So, the ruse, the fraud, the temporary insanity, oh, I was upset, and then 5 minutes later, you realize what you did when you were wrong, or you're hanging out, doing whatever you typically would do, and you're normal. That's usually a fraud. This man is still under the influence of his mental defect and condition. So I haven't been able to get the information I need from him.
Okay. Let me just reiterate, I said this at 5 o'clock. This interview was like an hour long, and we addressed a lot of different issues. He talked about everything that I asked him. We talk about mental illness a lot and his plea. Now, I just reached out to Clyde Bennett just moments ago following the indictment. He did give me a statement about the death penalty. He says, quote, "It is very easy to obtain an indictment, particularly when you present evidence to a grand jury on the heels of an emotional, provocative, tragic incident. As a matter of law, an indictment is not indicative of guilt. In fact, the judge tells a jury that the indictment means nothing." He went on to say, in this case, the indictment does not change the facts, circumstances, and events of that unfortunate day. It does not change the fact that Mr. Hinton has a history of mental illness. Mr. Hinton experienced a psychiatric episode triggered by watching a video of his son being shot to death. And that because of his mental defect, he did not know the wrongfulness of his conduct when he engaged Deputy Henderson.
Ladies and gentlemen, you know, he really does have a good case. There's people in this country, every time they get in trouble, they always go to screaming mental illness, and in many cases, they don't even have a prior history of mental illness. And they seem to get off all the time because we know this system is very unfair and unjust. Now, here you have a father that obviously loved his son, and he had to sit and watch his son on video get his life taken. And so he was already dealing with mental issues. And I'm glad his attorney spoke out about that. You know, it gives us more detail about him having a prior record of mental illness. And so I think that's why it makes sense on why those cops were in there trying to intimidate him. You know, because at the end of the day, they know he's got a strong case. When it comes down, he's got real mental illness, not mental illness because I got in trouble with the law. That's what the rest of these people seem to have. But he's got real recorded mental illness, and that's going to make all the difference in the world. But we know in this system, the courts are unfair, and you know, they'll even break the law to put a black man behind bars. We know that too. So we'll see what happens in this case, but I kind of agree with his lawyer with his history. You know, I don't see how they can easily dismiss that he might have had an episode, and that's why he did what he did. But y'all tell me what you think about this interview that Rodney Hinton's attorney did with Fox 19. Just tell me your thoughts in the comment section. Please leave your comment and subscribe. Don't forget to hit on the notification bell, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace, family.